and good afternoon to all participants and respective panelists. Thank you all for finding your time and visiting today's webinar, which is entitled with Industrial Revolution 4.0 and Artificial Intelligence Role in Higher Education Ecosystem. I am Akila, your moderator for today's webinar. So before we dig deeper about our topic, first of all, I would like to introduce to all of you our respective panelists, where most of them have a lot of knowledge and also experiences to share with us about what is IR 4.0 and this AI thing. Okay, today we have an amazing panel. We have Dr. Muhammad Akmal, Director from Institute for Artificial Intelligence and Big Data. And we also have another 3 in-house panelists, a senior lecturer from Department of Data Science, which is Dr. Nurul Izrin, Dr. Hadrami, and also Mr. Khairuniza Shazwan. Okay, before I pass the session to our panelists to elaborate more on this topic, let me give a quick heads up to all audience about IR 4.0, where the beginning of this revolution is a continuation from the digital revolution in IR 3.0. So in this era, we have a new technology such as blockchain, big data, cloud computing, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence. By having this new technology, we can have a two-way communication between human and devices. For example, like our current technologies that now we use, such as smartphone, smart TV, smart car, and many more in the market. Okay, as you can see from your smartphone itself, we have a feature to unlock our phone by using a face recognition instead of we key in our passcode. Another thing is we have this voice recognition to make a call or even a car voice assistance in our local car products such as Proton. So these emerging technology are now implemented everywhere from industry, for instance, in manufacturing, healthcare, retail, security, accounting, and many more. So apart from this industry sector, we also wonder how this emerging new technology can play an important role in our education ecosystem. Without further ado, I would like to welcome our first panelist, Dr. Akmal, to deliver his content and perspective about AI in education. All right, Dr. Akmal, now the microphone is yours.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Akila, for your first introduction of our webinar today. So before we start, I would like to big thanks to PKPA and Dr. Najmi and team for organizing this webinar to allow us to share our knowledge about AI and Industrial Revolution 4.0 into our teaching and learning activity and education in higher ecosystem. Before we start, actually we are in the Department of Data Science. Maybe we are not very expert in educational research or educational things. Maybe most of us know what is AI, know what is the IoT, know how we can develop on IoT, but maybe experience is a little bit not very deep on the educational. I mean that in the teaching and learning activity or in the curriculum development, especially in the UNK. Maybe this session I will not share about the research because AI already matured in research or in the industry. Maybe we can share about how AI or Industrial Revolution things can benefit in higher education ecosystem. So let me share my slide. Okay, so in my presentation today, in my talk, I will divide it into 2 categories. First thing first, let me introduce some little bit about AI in the general way and how AI can be used in teaching and learning activity or in education. I think the PKPA will take benefit of that lah. All right, before we start, the AI in higher education, let me introduce some about our national 4IR policy that have been published by the Economy Planning Unit, EPU, how the technology, especially in 4IR technology, can benefit all the sector in Malaysia. And if we can see this national IR policy, we have 5 foundational technologies, the very important technology that can improve or to boost our socio-economy. That's why our government push hard on this technology that can be benefit all the sector in Malaysia. We have AI, IoT, blockchain, cloud computing, and advanced material. I will not touch detail about this technology because our panel will describe more about this technology, but we can see how the AI especially can benefit in the education sector.
Tulis. Yang ni dia berdasarkan apa dia punya ni? Yang 5 perkara tadi untuk yang PKPA punya charge tadi.
Ya.
Tentang WBL tadilah yang kita bahaskan ni. Atas dasar apa?
Alright, we proceed in the next slide. Okay, before we start, the term AI or artificial intelligence is very hot topics or is very hot terms nowadays. Everyone use the word AI to to get some kind of idea how we can do the innovation in the many things. But there is no exact word how AI can be described. If you search in the Google what is AI, a lot of terms can you see. But the summary is we want to computer or machine can think or can learn, try to mimic our intelligence of the human. That is the purpose of AI. And in the industry, there is already matured actually the AI adoption. We can see in the healthcare, for example. My research is about healthcare, how we can detect cancer, for example, using the MRI image, using the genetic. And manufacturing also going to increase the adoption of AI. And computer vision, we also use AI nowadays. There is a lot of things that can be done in the industry. So how about the education? Before we go to the education, I want to give overview about the difference between AI, data science, and big data, because this term is a lot of explanation nowadays. So the big thing is the AI itself. AI is a very big thing. Okay, AI is a very big thing. Any kind of the process or any kind of the method that try to be intelligent, to be smart, that we can call is AI. Maybe if you fill the form and you want to do it in the computer, in the digital, that is not AI. That is the digitalization. We are convert from the manual process into the computer based. That is the digitalization. It's different from AI. Okay, AI can be done with the big data. Big data is very important here because the majority of AI itself is depend on the big data. All right. This is a misconception about AI. Before we start, what is AI and how we are going to implement AI in education, especially in teaching and learning. So actually AI is digital app or IT things is not true because AI is some part of digital. We want to make a machine or computer intelligent. That's not digital, I said already. And misconception number 2, AI can do everything. No, AI is very limited, very limited. Not everything we can AI. Not everything we can use AI actually. It depends on our problems. Okay, and machine learn by themselves. some of you have learned about AI. You think the machine can learn by themselves. So is it not true actually? Because human must be set the rule, or human must set how the machine can learn. So it's controlled by human actually. AI is the same thing as machine learning. Some of you already learned about machine learning. Actually, machine learning is a big part of AI. Machine learning is a method that we can allow computer to learn, but it's not about kalau AI, kalau machine learning itu dia is not AI secara general. Okay, so AI will kill jobs. This term is very afraid. Many of our students or our staff have heard this term. AI will kill jobs in the future. I think it's no, because we still need human to assist the machine or the computer to do the jobs. Some say that super intelligent machine will surpass humans. Okay, no. Sebijak mana pun komputer, sepantas mana pun komputer tak akan mengatasi human. We are human, we are superior than the computer. And other thing is AI is only used for automation. Some of you heard that AI is only used for automation. No, automation is very important and is one of the factors that AI can be used. But the automation also supported by augmentation, which means we allow AI to do decision making. That is the part of the augmentation. It's not the automation. We ask AI to do some recognition or detection or classification to let us know what is the hypothesis or what is the behind of our problem, for example. And AI was invented recently, a long time ago. AI is already there. Because nowadays, why AI is a very bombastic word? Because we have three factors. The first one is the data. We are in era of big data. Data generated from long time ago will increase more. And the second one is the the computational power. More computer can more high spec computer are being created to speed up our the process. And the last one is the algorithm itself or technological breakthrough. During the Alan Turing, for example, is very limited in the theory of an algorithm that how AI can be increased. Okay. That's about AI. So we go to the AI in education. In March 2021, in this year, I have attended Asia Europe Foundation that discuss about how AI can be benefit in higher education. And I want to quote some of the resources that we can use it at our UNK to see how AI is positioned in the education. So I will not talk about the research. We will talk about the teaching and learning, the classroom, and many more. So Dr. Wayne Holmes proposed 3 buckets how AI can benefit in education. So what is the 3 buckets? Okay, we can divide it into 3 buckets. The first one is learning with AI. The second one is learning about AI. And the third one is preparing for AI. Generally speaking, learning with AI is we learn. You are student, we are teacher or lecturer. We are learn with the system or behind the process. I mean, we learn and assisted by AI system. The second one is learning about AI. Learning about AI is mostly in the data science department. We are learn how AI works, or we are learn how to develop AI. That is learning about AI. The third one is preparing for AI. After we have learning with AI, learning about AI, how we go further, how we can do preparation, or how we want to adapt AI in our ecosystem. Okay, the first one, learning with AI, we have three categories: student-facing AI, teacher-facing AI, and system-facing AI. Okay, learning with AI means that AI technology that automate aspect of school or university administration, admission, timetabling, learning management, attendance recording, predicting which students are at risk risk of failure, like analytics, academic analytics. This one is we don't know how it happened because it works in the background. Most of us don't know how it works. That's what we call learning with AI. We face the system or system facing. For the example, the scheduling, most of the university timetabling, we must do the AI things, which is scheduling, how we can allocate resources, time to create the very suitable or very efficient timetable. And for example, we have face recognition attendance system. We can use AI to detect face of the student, and automatically it will mark as attendant. All right, this one is learning with AI, student facing. This is more like the student will use the system in their learning. Not learning about AI, but use the system to assist their learning. For example, we have intelligent tutoring system, ITS, Alex, macam-macam lagi lah. There's many more AI tools or AI application that can be used nowadays to assist the student in their learning. A dialogue-based tutoring system, for example, which are proposed by IBM. And automatic writing evaluation, we can use natural language processing, one of the method in AI to assess the student or our writing. Okay, so the grammar check also actually is a part of AI. We at UMK we use Grammarly to check the grammar. That is the learning with AI, which student facing. Yeah, there's now a lot of tools that teacher can use for their learning. Or for example, a teacher advisor. This is a teacher facing to support a teaching and learning activity. How AI can be used to enhance the activity of teacher in delivering their courses. Okay, the second one is learning about AI. This one is we learn how we can develop AI system, or how we can, how we know or get to know what is the system or what is the methods that can be used to deploy or to develop AI. This one specifically focused by our department lah, Department of Data Science and Institute for Artificial Intelligence Big Data, IBIG. We will train, or we will have a course to introduce about AI, machine learning, and how we can deploy or how we can do the data analytics in our specific problem. Okay, now we have learning with AI, we have learning about AI. So now, how about preparing for AI? This one is very important also. How we want to live with AI. AI are already there, so how we can democratize AI in our area, especially in the UMK. Okay, democratizing AI. So a lot of people talk about democratizing AI, how we can reach AI to wider audience. So the layman know at least, or layman can use AI, not only the researcher, not only the programmer, not only the staff, but also the different people, the layman, the social scientists, for example. Okay, so AI awareness is very important. How we can do to give the awareness to students, lecturers, and society about AI. Because this one is actually they already know, but they not realize they are already using AI. For example, if we can see the smartphone, a lot of AI embedded already there. For example, face recognition or age recognition. By using the camera selfie, we can detect our age, for example. And in the UMK, so it depends how we can embed AI knowledge in courses or curriculum. At a Department of Data Science is no problem because we already learn, we already plan how students will learn about AI. But it's challenging also if we want to give AI knowledge to other courses or other subjects in different fields. That's we can think about it lah. Okay, and then okay, that's a summary for my presentation. Actually, AI is connected in higher education in multiple ways. It depends on how we can see AI position in our university. Actually, democratizing AI in higher education is challenging process because maybe we know, we are in the Department of Data Science, know how AI works, but how we want to give the knowledge at least, or to aware the AI or the potential of AI application or IR4.0 application and technology can be used in different area, in different people, and in different aspect of our life. But in my summary, education is education. AI will never replace education tasks, especially in teaching and learning. Some say that robot will change or will robot will change our educator role to teach. No, actually we are not going to there lah. So AI is actually will assist only on student learning. It's not about replacing our educator's job because at the end, educator is educator. Educator will change the student role actually. I want to highlight some little bit challenging process maybe after this about how or current state how AI can be used in student performance or in education. But you can at least the audience can take 3 things about AI. We will know learning with AI, which is we learn and with assist with AI system. And second one is we learn about AI itself. We learn about how we can do the AI in our problem, or we want to develop AI. And the second thing, the third one is preparing for AI to get ready how AI can be used or can be implemented in our daily life or in our curriculum. Okay, I think that's all for my first presentation. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Akila.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Akmal, for the kickstart of our topic. It is important to know that our government has launched the national policy and aim at increasing the country's readiness in harnessing the potential of 4th Industrial Revolution. As we can see from your sharing just now, we noticed that several foundational technologies have been introduced in IR4.0, such as big data, blockchain, cloud computing, and so on. We always heard about big data, but how can we embed big data concept in education sector? Okay, Dr. Izrin, maybe you can elaborate more as this topic, I think, closely related with your current domain expertise.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, everyone. First of all, before I start, I would like to thank PKPA for this opportunity for us to share our knowledge and also for all the viewers. Okay, as mentioned by Dr. Akmal previously, I would like to touch on big data analytics. So before that, let me share my slides. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Okay. Oh, can you see my slide now?
Yes, Doctor.
Okay, all right, sorry. I thought I shared the different slide. Okay. It seems okay. So as mentioned by Dr. Akmal, how important AI is and so on, but I would like to touch and I would like to quote again, are we ready to have AI in education? And before that, let me explain a bit on big data, because as we all know that currently they say that oil is no longer a new currency, but data is a new currency. So how far do we know about data? Okay, let's touch on how can we declare the data is big data. We need to have 5 V's of big data. Okay, it considers volume when big data is collected from millions of different resources. Okay, let me move the slide first. Okay, sorry. Million resources, the volume of big data differs from consumer to consumer. So for example, some may say that big data is tens of terabytes, and someone might say big data is tens of petabytes. So it depends on the consumer itself. And then what else? Okay, velocity. So what is velocity? This aspect describes the pace of data coming in and getting exchanged or shared. So the speed of big data is usually measured in real time. Okay, and then variety. So big data must have like a variety of data, a variety of different types. So it including raw, unstructured, structured, and verified data. So some of these types require further evaluation and analysis, while others are ready to use. So that's variety of data in big data. Sorry, veracity. So means concentrating on removing bias. So inconsistency, flaws, and more. Why?
Sorry, Dr. Izrin, I think you are sharing a wrong screen.
Okay, so, sorry. Wrong screen. Okay, sorry. I'm sharing the wrong screen. Okay. How about now?
Okay, this one is correct.
I'm not sure. Okay. Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. Okay, so now we are on veracity. Okay. Veracity means concentrating on removing bias, inconsistency, flaws, and more. And then variability means it has to many variable and variety and consistency of ways through which big data is received. So data comes in predict peaks. It may be seasonal and triggered by a specific phenomenon online. So that's 5 V's of big data. We cannot simply say that the data is big. It has to follow these 5 description of big data. Okay. And then so in general, so big data is a field that treats ways to analyze, systematically extract information from, or otherwise deal with data sets that are too large or complex to be dealt with traditional data processing application software. So it needs to be big. In education, decision made by university to measure a student's understanding of the material or organize the structure of a course may possibly have the greatest impact on students' learning. Okay, and the rate of graduation. So high quality instruction may decrease the time a student takes to learn certain material. So it also allows students to acquire more information in the same amount of time. So data can also help students to make better decisions about what they should actually study. Okay, and also, so this learning efficiency not only improve the experience of the student itself, but can be also beneficial to alleviating some of the demands of university resources. So we can say that data is not only can be profitable or can be beneficial to the student, but it also can be beneficial to the university. Because from the data, we can see the performance of the student and also can be used by university to have some decision on resource allocation, maybe for them to schedule a timetable, to see the progress or the performance of the student and so on. Okay, so the tool most useful for supporting the flexible decision making that teachers need and educators to increase the quality of the learning experience is big data analytics. So when you have a lot of data, we consider it big data, we conduct some analytics, not some analytics, we conduct analytics and we can benefit a lot of things. Okay, it gives educators and students an edge in understanding where and how improvement can be made throughout the learning process. Okay, so we can say that's how important, I can say how important big data in education section. So big data analytics creates not only new opportunity to improve the education process by helping teachers and learners make smarter decisions, and it also can help in development in using data science to drive process innovation and to make us in the same par as other developed country. Okay, and then let's move to next. Okay, then let's go into how big data analytics can help in education. Okay, first, I would like to say this by measuring, monitor, and also by respond. Why I say this? Because data analytics, okay, it allows teacher to measure, monitor, and respond in real time to a student's understanding of the material. So analytics showing how student learns can help educators adapt their teaching styles and address student needs before the final grade is delivered. Okay, meaning that when you have data before the final result from the data, from the historical data from previous semester or previous examination, we can see the trend. We can also, like I said, we can predict how the performance of the current class or the current semester based on historical data. So that's the beauty of data. And this is an important development for teachers because it will strengthen the teacher's ability or the university ability to address any unconscious biases that we might have during the learning, meaning that maybe we know that we are not delivered enough, or maybe the student is not full understanding of the syllabus. So we can see that before the real result is out. Okay. What else can data do? Okay, big data, using big data, we can personalize the learning experience of the students. Many courses interesting for students with different level of knowledge. Okay, because I can say that some students, they are not from the same background. So introduction courses can often have students with different level of fundamental knowledge. So by using data analytics, we can understand where each student is struggling. Okay, where a student is struggling or excellent can allow you to offer different starting material. So because they have different background, by using data analytics, we know how to channel them. And maybe because this student A, they have some weaknesses in this point, and student B have some, they excel in one point. So by analytics, we try to personalize the students or the learning experience of the students. Okay, this will improve student interest. So can you imagine if by using analytics, we try to cater students' need, and student must have, like, I can say it's more pleasant experience compared to when you try to what you call it, pukul rata lah kan, for different background, but you teach the different style, or you expect the same result, but obviously they have different skills, different knowledge, and also different background. So what we need data analytics to study the student behavior. So this will improve student interest in the subject and indicate to whom and when specific learning content should be delivered. Okay, let's move to next. And what's next? On the university side, I can say that using big data analytics, it can help us to design a new course. Okay, a key challenges for a university is to quick understand what industry needs, right? Because we don't want to teach the student that is not in demand, obviously, and to deliver a curriculum to meet those demands. Okay, because we understand that the industry needs these skills, for example. So how do we know? Okay, by using big data, we analyze the data. Data analytics can be used to understand market and employment rates, trends, and to organize courses and fundamental learning principles around the education itself. So by directing towards industrial demand or industrial employment rates or employment trend, how we can design our course based on these demands. Okay, so we hope that the students not only learn from books or from theory, but it also needs to cater current industrial needs, okay, IR4.0 or AI and so on and so forth. And then one of the most, I can say one of the most significant achievement of the impact of big data in education is the creation of learning management system. I'll show you some example of learning management system after this. And this, by using learning management system, it allows the instructor to create assignments, tests, and even new course using information that is already online. Okay, but because if you have a learning management system, we can monitor, we can pantau the performance and so on, and using that data in future. Okay, let me show you one example. I think even Dr. Akmal have mentioned this. This is, okay. All right, let me play some video on how big data analytics can help in education.
Every 26 seconds, a student in America drops out of school, and more than 1,700 high schools across the country have a dropout rate above 40%. The sad irony is that most estimates predict that there will be more than 120 million highly skilled jobs in the US by 2020. But American students will be qualified to fill less than half of those positions. These numbers can only spell disaster. But what if teachers had a more sophisticated way to monitor student progress? Education technology companies are now using big data analytics to give teachers a new tool to ensure success. Imagine a 10th grader incorrectly fills in the bubble for 6 apples, reevaluates, and then changes his answer to 12 bananas. We can now track the student's odds of flubbing this kind of question in the future and identify the flawed logic that caused the moment of doubt. Dozens of startups are using personalized testing to create detailed profiles for individual students, gathering roughly 10 million data points for every child. Arizona State University recently implemented a data analytics system that increased passing rates by 10%, while cutting dropout rates in half. These systems can also suggest exercises to make it easier for students to learn and hone new skills. Early adopters, like the Delaware Board of Education, reported an immediate 10% increase in both reading proficiency and math performance. And now more than 10,000 schools have integrated data collection into the classroom, which will soon help us answer some of the big questions. Many teachers resisted technology for decades because it often amounted to more work with unknown results. But new systems can provide analysis in real time, and more than 87% of teachers surveyed today believe that analytics can be a powerful instruction tool in the classroom. Big data is no longer just a measuring stick. It is allowing us to climb inside the minds of students to see not just what they learn, but how they learn best. Policymakers, teachers, and technology experts now agree that analytics are ready to tackle the problem. Will it be the catalyst that pushes American schools into the 21st century?
Okay. Okay, so I think, what are your opinion? So it's interesting, right? So I think that's all from the first round of my presentation to Dr. Akila. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Isrin. From your sharing just now, I found it is interesting to know by using big data concept, we can allow educators to measure, monitor, and respond students' understanding. And not only that, we can also personalize students' learning experience. How about cloud computing in education? Because nowadays we heard lots of cloud computing platform from big tech company that we can leverage, such as Google, IBM, Amazon, Microsoft. Now let's call Dr. Hadrami to share this topic and tell us more how we can benefit this technology in education sector.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Akila. Assalamualaikum, I'm Hadrami Abdul Ghani, a lecturer from the Department of Data Science, University Malaysia Kelantan. So before I begin, I would like to again say my gratitude to PKPA for inviting us from JSD and IBIG to share some of our expertise in IR 4.0. So now it's my turn to speak about cloud computing. I strongly believe that cloud computing is not something that is so alien to us. I believe all of us know at least a bit about cloud computing. And in fact, it has been with us for so many years. So let us begin with a brief introduction of cloud computing. What is actually the meaning of cloud computing? Cloud computing is basically provision of computing services over the internet. So what do we understand by computing services? So computing services include anything that is related to the computer. Say it like softwares, a database, networking, anything that a computer can serve you, that is one type of a computing services. Okay, so we want to make sure that, okay, by the meaning or the definition of cloud computing, we want to provide these cloud computing services over the internet. So instead of using those computing services at our home without being connected probably to the data connections, now we want to get access to those services just via the internet browsers. So that is the basic definition of cloud computing. So by knowing the definition of cloud computing, we know that cloud computing is actually an alternative. It's a good option to the conventional physical data centers. Before the advent of computing or cloud computing, we know that people are very used to the physical conventional data centers where we require these physical spaces, and it is definitely costly and not so easy for us to provide those conventional physical data centers. So the design or the idea of cloud computing is very important, and it gives us a lot of advantages. So in my short presentation, between 10 to 15 minutes, I will share briefly about these three things. Okay, the first thing that I would like to say is about the ownership. Okay, what is the, or who is basically owning the cloud computing networks? And secondly, I will be talking about the types of cloud computing and which of these types are basically relevant to us. So we need to know this in order for us to understand what is the meaning of cloud computing. And the last part, I'll be talking about the advantages and basically why do we need cloud computing. So the ownership, or who owns the cloud computing network. So when we talk about ownership, typically we are talking about two different entities, okay, two general entities. The first entity is the public entity, and the second entity is the private entity. So the definition or the ownership of the cloud computing networks are basically around these two entities, private and public entities.
Sorry, Dr. Hadrami, to interrupt. I think you are still showing us the first slide.
Oh, it's not? Okay, okay, all right. Okay, thanks for that. Okay, I will share again. Okay, can you see?
Maybe you can make it as a slideshow, Doctor.
Slideshow?
Yeah, because...
Yeah, it's slideshow already.
Okay.
Tak nampak,
now we can see.
Now you can see. Okay. All right, so I'm just in the third slide. Can you see now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. In the third slide, I'll be talking about the ownership. So the ownership of the cloud computing networks are basically either it belongs to the private entity or to the public entity. So if it belongs to the private entity, so we call it as a private cloud network or private cloud services. If it belongs to the, actually when we say it belongs to the public entity, is very it might be misleading a bit, because when you say public, we are talking about so many entities. So actually, for public cloud networks, the cloud is belong to a third party, which is actually a private party as well. But that private entity is using the cloud network that it is offering to the public interest, for the public's interest. Okay, and the third type of cloud networks is basically a hybrid cloud. So definitely it is not hard for us to understand. Hybrid cloud networks are basically a combination of the two, combination of the private and public cloud networks. Okay, so now we are going to see the types of cloud computing services. Generally, when we learn about cloud computing services, it is accepted, or it is generally accepted, that there are three types of cloud computing services. The first type is software as a service, or SaaS. This is the most common type of cloud computing services, where it is used by almost everyone. Okay, like the Gmail, the Office 365, Google Docs, Google Sheets, various email and communication software tools. So these fall under software as a service. Okay, you can name hundreds of applications or software which fall under the software as a service, or SaaS cloud computing type. Okay, and the second type is called PaaS. PaaS stands for platform as a service. So platform as a service is slightly higher in terms of the governance and the control of the service. Okay, so typically platform as a service is controlled, or it's governed by the software developers. If you are one of the software developers, then it is good for you to actually subscribe for this PaaS. And examples of PaaS is like including the Google App Engine, AWS Elastic Beanstalk, Heroku, and many other types of PaaS tools. And the third type is known as infrastructure as a service. Okay, infrastructure as a service. So in this type of cloud computing services, basically the users or the subscribers are given more governance and controlling ability in order to use this type of services. Okay, examples like Microsoft Azure, Google Compute Engine, AWS Elastic Compute Cloud, and so on. Okay, so one of my PhD students is working in this IaaS network as well, in security area. And typically this IaaS, okay, IaaS is typically subscribed by the IT administrators. If you're talking about cloud servers and so on, so this actually fall under IaaS, okay, infrastructure as a service. Okay, this is to further explain what I mentioned just now. So when you talk about IaaS, or infrastructure as a service, then if you are one of the subscribers of IaaS, then you have these the green buttons here are showing what you can do, basically what you are given permission for you to control if you are one of the subscribers of IaaS service. Okay, you can basically control the applications, data runtime, middleware, and operating system. Okay, of course, it is much different than the traditional way of using these computing services without using any cloud computing. Then you can control almost everything. Okay, but if you want to talk about the cloud computing services, then we talk about the three types just now, and the IaaS, or the infrastructure as a service, will give you the best, or the not the best, I would say the most number of entities under the service in which you can control. But of course, only if you know how to control. So that's typically these type of services are subscribed by the IT administrators who know how to control this IaaS. Okay.
Sorry, Dr.
Lost again, huh? Lost again.
You are still at slide 2.
Oh, slide 2. Okay, it's okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Now we are in slide 5 already. Can you see?
Yes, we can see now.
This is slide 5. Can you see now?
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Akila. Okay,
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and so in slide 5, we talk about the governance or the control. What can we actually, if we are one of the subscribers of the 3 types of cloud computing services, so what can we actually control? So if you are subscribing the IaaS, then you can control these 5 green buttons here: applications, data, runtime, middleware, and operating system. If you are subscribing the PaaS, and you can actually control the application and the data only. But if you are the subscribers of the SaaS, the software as a service, which are the most common types of cloud computing services, and which all of us are using. Okay, typically these services are provided, and it can be free or it can be pay as you go and so on. So these are the most common types where we cannot actually control or change the applications and the data, the runtime, the middleware, and so on, but we can use the applications. Okay, and that is the most important thing for us, especially for those who are not having any background in this networking and IT, in the specific field of IT and so on. So the best thing that we can get from the cloud computing, which is what we are using at the moment, okay, the Google email and so on, the Gmail, is to use this SaaS, okay, service. So this is considered as the last 2 parts of my presentation. So we need to know, why do we actually use the cloud computing services? Okay, there are many. If you do your own research, why do we actually need cloud computing? Then you will come across almost the same ideas of why we use the cloud computing services. Okay, it is quite common sense for us to understand that by using the cloud services, okay, we can actually save our money, because we don't have to use that many number of physical resources like the computing, the servers. If you're talking about, if you are one of the IT administrators, then you just pay as you go. Okay, whenever you use, then you pay for the subscription of the services that you use. And it is of course related to the minimal hardware that we use. That's why it is cost efficient, and it is scalable. Okay, what do we mean by scalable? Scalable meaning we can increase the size of the people or the users of the subscribers who are using the computing services. Okay, it is very much different than the typical hardware setting of data centers. Or probably if you're talking about a lab, a computer lab, if you want to add one more computer or one more servers in that lab or in that centers, then you need to do a lot of physical configuration. So scalability is different and is harder in that sense. But for cloud computing services, it is very much scalability. I mean, it is very, very scalable, meaning it is easy for us to add users regardless of the number of users or the subscribers that we want to add. And it is very reachable, meaning by using the cloud computing services, you can reach any material that you want all over the world. Okay, which is impossible for us to reach by if you're not using the cloud computing services. For example, if you want to get the materials from America, okay. For example, one of my students are doing research on computer vision, and he's doing the research on the lane detection. Okay, when you are driving on the car, you want to detect the lanes, so you need the data set of those videos. So one of the best videos that you can get is from the our friends, the universities in the US. So we need to get those data sets. So I mean, for the research students, this is very, very beneficial, where they can actually get those data which are very important for them, regardless of the location of the data. Okay, so this is purely because of the benefits and the advantages of cloud computing. Okay, obviously it is more secure because it is typically controlled by the administrator, and then we can do many virtual stuff, virtual class, virtual session, and so on. And it is much easier for us to access. I mean, easier in terms of the material, in terms of the devices that we can use. Okay, previously we can just access some of the materials. If you're talking about the education, then we typically access the materials by using the laptops, but now we can actually access the softwares by using the phones. Okay, previously, I think like 20 years back when I was a student, if I want to learn C programming and so on, I can only learn those coding and so on in front of a computer in which the tool for the C programming has been installed. But now you can actually use your phone to do programming. Okay, you can use your phone to do programming by using the cloud services. Okay, so you don't have to install the softwares. You just go to the URL in which the cloud services is offering. Okay, and then you just do the programming on whatever services that you want without actually installing the software. And I think one of the most important advantages of cloud computing is actually the agility. Agility meaning by using the services, the cloud computing services, it can save a lot of your time. Okay, in terms of transferring the data and the service from the server to your PC or to your own laptop and so on, you can save those times because you can actually put everything on the cloud. Okay, and I think this is probably the last one
sorry to interrupt again, Dr. Hadrami. I think it's showing slide 5.
It's okay, it's okay. Actually, this is the last one. The last one is actually about the type of services that you can offer in education for computing services. So for computing services, there is one researcher from basically he has done a study on education, okay, related to the cloud services. So he said that basically he introduced the term learning as a service. So because just now when I introduced cloud computing services, we have actually 3 types of cloud computing services. We have IaaS, we have PaaS, and we have the SaaS. But actually, because learning is so important, there was one researcher who introduced the word learning as a service because we need cloud computing. Really, it is very important for learning and education. Okay, I think that's all for my first part, and I pass it over the session to Dr. Akila. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Hadrami, for the introduction of basic concepts and the need of cloud computing. We can see how fast the technology changed. Previously, we are depending on traditional computing, and now we have more easy access and scalable platform to store and access our data and computing services over the internet to the cloud. Okay, now let's move to the next topic. When we talk about internet is the largest communication connecting millions of computer users. With internet, it can connect you with your friends, your family, you can access any information. Not only connecting with human, with internet, we can connect human with devices. I think some of you have watched a scene in a movie where someone claps their hands and the lights switch on. It sounds really cool, right? All of this related to Internet of Things, where devices in your home can connect to each other and we can send information across. Now let's welcome our next panelist, Mr. Shazwan, to give clearer understanding to us about what is Internet of Things, or commonly known as IoT.
Can you see my slides?
Yes, Mr. Shazwan.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Kila, for giving me the opportunity also to speak on the Internet of Things and also for PKPA. So before we jump straight away to what is Internet of Things, benefits and applications to the education, probably I will talk a little bit on the what is Internet of Things. In general, in a simpler words, it's obvious in terms of its names. The internet is internet when the data is uploaded into the internet, and of things is considered referring to the sensors, actuators, gateways, even microcontrollers, those kind of things. So when you connect everything, so the basic understanding here is when you have the data, you capture the data, you upload that to the internet and store that That is simply the definition of Internet of Things. So the Internet of Things offer great potential to change the world, the way in which system function and business operates, as some example in the real world, providing not only a leap in automation, but deep visibility driven by the massive amount of data that can be collected, analyzed, reported, and act upon, often without the use of the needs for human interaction and involvement.
Sorry, Mr. Shazwan, are you showing? Okay, now we are seeing the next slide. Right.
Just introduction. Okay, then for the IoT architecture, here you can see the ability of efficiently collect data start from the use of sensors. So sensors is a very important part of IoT, definitely. That's why the thing is the Internet of Things. Things is referring to sensors and actuators. Sensors are devices that respond to input from physical world, then take those input and display them, transmitting them for additional processing or use them in conjunction with artificial intelligence, which covered by Dr. Akmal, to make decision or just adjust operating condition. As applied to the Internet of Things, data collected from sensors is used to help business owners, managers, or any employees to make intelligent decisions about their operation and help client and user more efficiently use the business product or service if it's in context of business. So here, if you see in the IoT architecture, the main idea is the sensor and actuator. So you have sensor, which is the input, and the output will be actuators. We call it actuators here. So it will be connected either wired or wireless. So somehow you do have like a microcontroller that will be connected to all the sensors, will connect all the sensors, then straightway to the data acquisition system, which is you can call it as gateway. So here is where it collects all the data. If you have various of nodes, various locations, so it collects all the data and upload this to the internet. So and the third part is the analytic part, where you process the data to your needs, where whatever information that you require, and also the last part is the data center cloud, which you store and manage the file. You pre-filter it or do whatever you want from using the data itself. All right. So here is the example of IoT architecture where you can see the spark sensors here, and you have the also the first part is the IoT sensor installation, and the second part is the hardware and networking, where this is one example. The black is the Node MCU. This is a microcontroller which collect all the internet, the sensors data to the microcontroller, and then to the Raspberry Pi, which it collects two microcontrollers value, then it uploads to the internet. Or here the last stage is the Node dashboard, and even the cloud dashboard you can see also. So local referring to normal computers that are physical available in the place, or probably the other one is the cloud dashboard, where we upload to the, as the Adami said, you can purchase the services that can store our data either in Amazon, Google, or even Azure, which is a Microsoft. So that's the idea part of it. So touching on the sensors, there's a lot of possibility inputting the data. You can capture common sensor like temperature, common data like temperature, pressure, motion level, even image using camera, proximity, water quality, even gas sensor, which is smoke sensor, IR, and many more actually. So ideally, if there's a sensor for capturing any data, you can it's possible to make a IoT system out of it. Okay, this is an example of IoT sensors in real visual. So that's ranging from very cheap sensors below 5 ringgit, or we have like 2 ringgit to even hundreds, depending on the situation that you want to use, the parameter that you want to use, the sensitivity, and what's lots of condition of which sensors that are suitable for your project or for your system itself. So what are actuators? Definitely sensors is not the same as actuators. Sensors is an input method, actuator is the output method. So here is the 4 examples of actuators. One is linear actuator, which move X and Y, horizontal, you can say horizontal or vertical in a one-way direction. You have motors, and motors, you have a lot of different motors in here. For example, you have servo motors, DC motor. It depends on the application that you want to use, what kind of speed you want to use, or so you need to go deep in what kind of actuator that are suitable for your system itself. So you have relays. So this relay actually turns on and off for voltage, higher voltages that cannot be supplied by microcontrollers. Normal microcontroller can only supply by 3 volt to 5 volt. So using this relay, you can actually turn on and turn off those equipment that have 230 volts or even more. So even the other one is solenoid, which is the actuator for operating the mechanism, trigger mechanism. So you can say for gas and water leak monitoring system. So to understand, okay. So the last part of the IoT is definitely once you have the sensors, you have the gateway, you upload that to the internet and store it. So how this is the example of how do you display in IoT data in dashboards. So you can visualize this data either in time series, even on pie chart, or even mapping if it's a GPS location data. So the simplest way to understand this IoT operation, you have sensors, as I mentioned before. And you go to the signal, detect signal to control center, and you go to the control center, send command to sprinkler, and sprinkler with the actuator will turn on and put off the fire. This is an example of a smoke detection or heat detection system that put out the fire. So the misconception of IoT. So IoT is about sensors. So regarding this, normally people are confused with IoT and instrumentation. Instrumentation is where it's the same concept, but it's a different way of using and normally instrumentation is only a local use data, so you don't upload that to the internet. But with IoT, is a different thing that you upload this data and to the internet. And it's not only about sensors; it's about gateways, API, security part, the actuators, the electrical part of it does play a big role in IoT itself. It's not only about sensors. So second part, the IoT is too expensive. Buying IoT systems that are available in the market are probably a bit expensive, where they have this softwares that they use their own softwares. They use probably more pricey sensors that are over engineered to your custom system. So for this method, for internet IoT, if you create it from zero, it can be even below 100 ringgit when sensors like temperature cost like 5 ringgit to 10 ringgit, and to do a complete system with Arduino, with Raspberry Pi, depends on the memory, how big is your system. So it is not that expensive compared to what is shown in the market itself, if you can do it on your own. But to do that, you do have need the knowledge of making the IoT. Okay, IoT is only about connecting devices to the internet. So this is completely wrong, because understanding that IoT have a lot of implementation, security matters, sensor they have. So the idea is the physical, how do you want to capture physical value to the internet? That's the role idea. It's not about internet itself. Internet itself is in this context is a place to store data, and it's not about reading physical data to upload to the internet. So, and the misconception, the fourth is it's easy to deliver an IoT product. Even though it's cheap, but it's not that easy. If you see YouTube teaching on the one system, one input and one output, that's considered easy. But when you have multiple input and multiple output, and you have to cover the security part, you have to do the programming, the electronic part, and you have to deliver the performance of a total IoT system. You do need knowledge in electronics, programming, even data analytics afterwards. Once you have all the data, you do want to need analytic parts, analytic analysis, so that you do need that knowledge also. And also, I think that's covered for that. So to summarize, IoT have a lot of potential. I think I will cover more potential in the education after this. But here, it's a general understand to make your audience understand what is IoT, and how do you appreciate IoT with other technologies like instrumentation or other internet things. So thank you. I will pass back to Dr. Akila.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shazwan, for your informative content. We can see that IoT has shown a drastic performance in many areas such as smart farming, smart home, and smart manufacturing. Okay, Mr. Shazwan, just now you have shared to us about IoT and clarified to us about the misconception in IoT and current IoT development in various industry sectors. Maybe you can elaborate more to us about the benefit and application of IoT in education, and what is the potential IoT development in the university itself?
All right. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sheila again. So the benefit and application of IoT in education. So education sectors is one of the most adaptive and effective in terms of deploying IoT devices to its usage. So in order to make education more collaborative, interactive, and accessible to all, which is the main goal of our Internet of Things. So IoT devices give students reliable access to everything from learning materials to communication channels to good understanding, and they give educators the ability to measure student learning progress in real time. So speaking of education, the COVID-19 pandemic has sufficiently highlighted the essential present of education source. So we now have a lot of online meetings and online classroom. Even some labs are being done online. So IoT just enabled a shift in teaching methodology from traditional, which is the conventional one, to digital with several additional benefits and increased efficiency. So this can be used for teaching all the subject ranging from language to math to teaching practical skill like the use of graphics and animation to improve better understanding of the matter, and not just the common Internet of Things that have been available for like a smart campus, like smart attendance devices, boards, integration, alarm system in school, assessment check-in tool, camera, school log, everything can move from physical world to the central system-based control world and with automation. And so you can actually use that to control remotely or doing, you don't have to go on site to do such operation. So the one, probably I will touch a little bit on the benefits. One is to improve the teaching and learning. So IoT can help institutions to improve quality of learning by providing a richer learning experience, real-world, actionable insight into student performance. So here, there's a lot of term of smart classrooms. So where some university also applied this smart classroom to actually monitor the environment noise inside the class, the CO2 level of the student, does CO2 level student affect the student focus in the classroom, the temperature, the lights, intensity, I think the right word is, also can be controlled by Internet of Things, can be done automatically to give the most benefit to the students and educators to have the maximize the student outcome. So those are examples that have been utilized in, I think, in modern university right now. So the smart classroom. So system determine the real time. So you have the ability to read student facial focus, how based on the visual face. So that's kind of one of the example here in the smart classroom in general. So the improve of learning efficiency by providing personal explanation to students. So this application help the lecturers also to actually change slide while speaking. Maybe by giving sound speak commands. I think that's commonly used in our phones currently, and to control the timing needed to each concept and also the time consumed by each activities. So another part of the benefit of IoT is I think the digital lab. The digital lab. So you have virtual lab and you do have remote control lab. So for virtual lab, I think the definition of virtual lab is doing it as a simulation, doing it as in a graphical way for you to for students to utilize the lab experiment in virtual live session. So it's different from to remote control lab, where you can actually do physical lab remotely. So that's a different way of approaching this digital lab. So with the new university environment due to COVID-19 and also the absence of sufficient lab resources at some remote site. The usual practice as replace the exercise of visual laboratory and develop a remote control laboratory experiment environment. So what's the difference with this remote control lab? So you actually can do, students actually can utilize the online services to actually control the physical laboratory that are available in the university or even other remote location which probably the university doesn't have the access the equipment to. So that helps a lot in terms of student development, and it's also safer because if you're dealing with experiment that is not safe, that has potential harm, so you can do it in real time in online environment that ensures that it can be done in a safe manner and benefiting in real-time student practical assessment, and serve also as a visual aids to teach complex concept, engaging learners, and also learning flexibility. So I think I covered a little bit about the most impactful in the for IoT impacting in the education. So I would like to thank you. I will pass back to Dr. Akila. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shazwan, for the clarification. Now we already heard about the IoT technologies and how we can embed with the education sector. Okay, now what about cloud computing technology, Dr. Harami? What are the issues faced by the lecturers or educators in utilizing cloud computing services in education? Maybe you can help us to clarify on this?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nakila, for the question. So coming back to the second session, I think this is going to be more informal. There's no slides to be shared, okay, and hopefully I can share within maybe 10 minutes or less than that. Okay, what are the issues commonly happening when it comes to cloud computing implementation in education and learning? I think I would like to reiterate what have been mentioned by my colleagues when we are discussing about IR4.0 for education. And I think we need to have the idea that for us to actually implement IR 4.0 successfully in education and learning, we need to actually understand at least these four important elements of IR 4.0, okay, which has been explained clearly by Dr. Akmal and Dr. Izrin as well as Dr. Shazwan, inshallah. Okay, so the big data, the AI, and IoT are three of the most important elements in IR 4.0. It's not everything, they are not everything, because we have like around 9 or 10 elements or pillars of IR 4.0, but these are very important, okay, very important elements of IR 4.0. And when we talk about education, definitely we have to try our best in embedding these pillars in our learning environment. As for cloud computing, I see cloud computing is more like the platform. Okay, as we learn, as what I have mentioned just now, it is a type of service that we offer for us, the learners, the educators, in order for us to maximize the performance of our education. For example, if you are, this is related to the issues that I'm going to speak about. Okay, there are about 7 issues which are commonly happening when it comes to implementation of cloud computing in learning and education. Okay, so the first common problem that happens is basically the lack of expertise. Okay, the lack of expertise. When I say the lack of expertise, it is related to what I mentioned just now. So we need to understand that in order for us, for example, to implement the cloud computing for education, then we need to also understand other components of IR4.0 as well. Okay, so cloud computing, for example, it is provided as a platform. Okay, platform for what? Platform for implementing software tools, which, if you're talking about IR4.0, will be best useful if we can embed the elements of AI and big data for analytics and so on. And if possible, we can also implement the IoT as well, especially if you're talking about the experiments and so on, which requires the usage of sensors and actuators and things which need to be connected wirelessly or wired connection between the sensors and so on. Okay, so that is the first thing, or the first problem that commonly happens when it comes to cloud computing implementation, is because we have lacking of expertise in this area. So we need to of course think of the solutions of tackling this problem, and I will go through briefly, inshallah, later on. And the second problem is about the connection, and this is a very common problem in anything. Okay, the data connection as well as the server connection as well. So there are two different problems when it comes to connection: the data connection of your phone and the server connection. Okay, the server or the cloud server that you are using, it depends on how good their servers are. Okay, and the third problem is related to the governance and control, and this is more on the control part. Basically, who are actually supposed to be given the governance and the control of the data or the software that we are sharing in the cloud. Okay, and this is also related to the next thing, which is the security. Okay, which is another issue. Okay, it is actually an issue, and it is actually an opportunity as well, because sometimes when you use cloud services, the security level is actually higher than if you're not using the cloud services. So it depends on what type of cloud services that we are using. And the fifth issue that is related to cloud computing implementation is the dimension. When I say dimension here, I mean the many options and dimensions of cloud services that we have to understand. Okay, because as I mentioned in the beginning, in the first slide, that there are hundreds of tools or software tools, apps that we can use, which are related to the cloud computing. But of the many types of the hundreds types of cloud services tools that we have, which one is the best for us? So we need to understand, why do we need to use the cloud computing, and for what reason are we using the cloud computing tools and services? So this is what I mean by the dimension. We need to know for which reason or what is our objective of using the cloud computing services. And then the next one is the performance. Okay, it depends on the devices that we are using and what kind of applications that we are using. So if we start to talk briefly on the connection problem I've mentioned just now, it depends on the two types of connections that we have. Okay, it depends on the connection, the data connection, and it depends on as well as the server connection. So it depends on where or what is the problem that we are facing. If we have poor connection, or maybe we don't have, for example, if we have poor connection of data, then we need to obviously this is a very common problem, that we need to try to get the especially if you're using the softwares that that are requiring a lot of or a higher data rate, then we need to get the data connection. Okay, for this one, and then sometimes even if your data connection is not very good, you can still use some of the cloud computing services which are offering a low data rate application, but which is able to achieve what you want. For example, there are some of the cloud services which are related to the IT programming and so on, like currently, for example, for my subject, I'm teaching maths, and the students, okay, they have the options of implementing or installing some of the softwares like the Scilab and so on. If they're not able to install the softwares for some reasons related to the data connection and maybe the specs of their laptops and so on are not good enough, then they can actually use the cloud service. Okay, they don't have to install the application, they can use the cloud service for implementing the Scilab and the MATLAB via the cloud service. So this is the thing, I mean, one of the solutions, possible solutions that can be implemented for the students having problems related to the data connection or the limited specs of their phones and so on. And the second issue is related to the dimensions of the cloud computing. So we need to know for what reason are we using the cloud computing. As I mentioned, are we using for the research purpose, or are we using for the teaching purpose, or are we using for any sensitive or critical problems to be solved? Okay, I can see that for research, definitely cloud computing is very much beneficial. Okay, because cloud computing, the main idea, one of the main ideas of cloud computing is actually sharing. Okay, sharing. So if you have a team of research, then definitely sharing via the cloud can help you a lot. Okay, it saves your time, especially when it comes to paper writing, and even for the teaching as well. Some of the documents that are possible to be shared, okay, by the lecturers to the students and so on, we can actually share the documents to the students, and the students can actually get access to the documents easily via the cloud computing services. And the next problem is about the lack of expertise, and I think it is quite obvious. One of the possible solutions to tackle this problem is we need to have more training and so on, okay, especially for the teachers, lecturers, and the students. And for the future students, maybe, okay, for us to actually help for the future students to understand this problem and to tackle this problem as well. So we need to have a proper documentation of how to use some of the cloud computing tools and services. Okay, so by having a proper documentation, by recording some of the training and so on, we can actually use those documentation for the future students and probably lecturers to use those documentation. Okay, and the security issues, it depends on, there are 4 areas that we need to look at. We need to look at the data privacy policy, and we need to look at the basically who can actually share and basically have the right to share the data that we want to share. Okay, and we need to also know the amount of data, or basically the right, the time for us to share all those documents. So these are the things definitely that we need to understand to avoid the security issues. But actually, for most of the cloud computing services offered, they are using very good security protocols, in which the security level of most of the cloud computing services are considered as acceptable. And the governance issues, this is related to the management, basically who is supposed to be given the authority of governing the data and so on. So it depends on the management, and basically we have to identify, if we are in that position, who are supposed to be given the control or the authority of using and accessing the data. And the sixth issue, okay, is about the directions of cloud computing. Okay, what else can we use, or what else can we do with cloud computing? So there are a few. I mean, there have been quite a number of research in this field regarding the cloud computing. Okay, some of the things that we can understand at least as educators. We can use cloud computing for presentation. We can use this cloud computing for efficient documentation. Okay, to create and use basically basic cloud-based word processing and so on. We can even use some of the cloud-based, for example, like Google Sheet. Some of the basic data analytics can actually be implemented by using Google Sheet. I mean, if you want to start with the simple ways of implementing data analytics, you can actually use Google Sheets or Excel. But when you're talking about the cloud computing, then definitely, for example, Google Sheet is a better option. Okay, we can actually use the cloud computing for analysis. Okay, this is what I mentioned just now. Cloud computing, it doesn't stand alone. It is very much integrated with other pillars of IR4.0, including the data analysis and AI and so on. And of course, one of the best thing that we can do with cloud computing is for storage and sharing. Okay, and of course, of the many types of cloud computing tools that we have, we need to select which one is the best for us, and because of the many types or options that we have, okay, we need to also look at the performance of those apps and competing what we call cloud computing services that we have, in order to make sure that the performance of the computing services that we are using is up to the standard that we want. Okay, so I think those are the 7 issues related to the cloud computing services. Okay, the connection, the dimension, security, governance, performance, direction, and the lack of expertise. And hopefully with some of the proposed solutions that I've mentioned, we can tackle the issues and make full use of the advantages of cloud computing. So I pass it back to Dr. Akila. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hadrami, for your fruitful information and brief to us on how to embed cloud computing in our education sector. Now let's go back to Dr. Izrin. Okay, Dr. Izrin, would you like to share any big data analytics application that can be used in our domain of education?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Akila. Actually, I talked about this previously in the first session, but I will try to, give some elaboration quickly on this part. Okay, basically, application of big data in education, I would like to touch on 3 points before we move on to the misconceptions. So for the application of big data in education, first and foremost is how we value the systematic of real-time data. So data mining and data analytics software can provide immediate feedbacks to students and teachers about academic performance. So these data analytics and data mining things can provide a result in real time, okay? So, and also the approach can analyze underlying patterns in order to predict students' outcomes, such as dropping out, needing extra help, or being capable of more demanding assignments. And it also can identify pedagogic approaches that seems most effective with particular students. So, for example, this software, the employment of this software allows teachers to mine learning patterns to see how students master, for example, for chemistry subject, statistic, or experimental designs, and also some maybe mathematical principles. They do this through embedded assessment tools as well as pre and post evaluation. So maybe I'll touch a bit on this later. I'll show some videos example. And then also apart from that, okay, for application of big data in education, we can also do some predictive analytics. So other ways that technology enables learning is through predictive and diagnostic assessment or analysis. So the former seek to evaluate how students will perform on standardized tests, while the latter emphasize which instructional techniques work for individual students and the best way to tailor learning. So a virtue on one's digital evaluation is that it provides students with information relevant to learning and performance. This is how we can apply big data, okay, in education by using predictive analysis. As you can see from the diagram, so there are many ways. Maybe we can do some consumer behavior, machine learning, find patterns, scoring, visualization like graph, pie chart, and so on. We can do predictive behavior, decision making, as I mentioned earlier, where you can help in, big data can help in resource allocation by using it to communicate and also to build a statistical model. Okay, move on to the next example. Okay, I have some videos, but I'm not sure whether we have enough time to see all this video. Okay, I just show you maybe some. Okay, this is something like this. This we call it Dreambox. Okay, maybe you can find it on the internet how they use Dreambox to fully utilize big data in education. So let me brief about Dreambox. So Dreambox is used to track performance through dashboard and visual displays. So this we call is dashboard and also some visual displays. So Dreambox are with statistical information compiled from various digital systems. So they have various digital systems and it combines into one, we call it dashboard. A number of schools have developed dashboard software and data warehouse that allow them to monitor learning, performance and behavioral issue for students as well as for the school as a whole or for the university as a whole. So for example, this Dreambox is a dashboard that aggregates data from administrators for different concepts. It summarizes proficiency data for each grade level in particular school, or maybe some will use it in particular university. It shows what percentage of students in the first grade have completed. Okay, so yeah, it will show how students perform or how they complete this certain subjects. At a glance, administrator can compare each grade and see overall how well their students are performing. So areas that are underperforming can be given additional help so they can do better. So by using this dashboard, they can monitor the student and maybe they can help the student so that the student can perform better in next semester or maybe in the same subject but from the new students and so on. So they can help them in planning their courses or planning their programs. Okay, that's I touch on 3 parts of application of big data. Basically, this been repeating all over and over. Okay, next, maybe I'd like to touch a bit on misconceptions. Okay, when we say big data, some people will say big data, it needs to have AI, but not necessarily. But it's good to have AI, but AI doesn't always depend on big data. For some example, Dr. Hadrami mentioned about cloud computing, IoT, or AI, and so on. But so AI doesn't always depend on big data. You might need big data when you have to train artificial intelligence and feed AI application. You might need a lot of data when your AI has to come up with answer to question or analyze huge data sets or to identify pattern. But that does not mean that you need big data all the time. Sometimes small data is enough. For example, Dr. Hadrami mentioned earlier by using Excel, I think, if I'm not mistaken, yeah. So that's maybe it's not really big data, but we can still find some pattern, we can do some analysis and so on. It doesn't always have to be big data. So that's the first misconception. And then the second one is you do not need an AI application for big data. Because previously I showed some example, but it doesn't have to be AI application. Just use Excel, simple Excel, you can have, you can analyze data and so on. Okay, AI can enhance your analytical capability. You can use AI to enhance your capability by automating and streamlining the analysis process. But that does not mean that it is mandatory. So it is not mandatory. Ada ke tak ada pun, you can still have, you can still analyze your data, kan? But it does not mean that it is mandatory to extract meaningful insights from large data sets. Businesses can take advantage of data warehousing, business intelligence. You can use business intelligence and analytics to visualize insight of the data. Okay, next one is integrating AI and big data without even knowing it. Okay, ni pun Dr. Akmal mentioned earlier. People keep telling AI and big data and so on, but do you really, is it really AI or is it really big data? So we need to have some, I think, at least some knowledge behind before we claim that it is AI or it is big data. Okay, okay. So as mentioned before, there's a lot of hype surrounding AI. One of the direct consequences of this hype is that it forced software developers and providers to add AI-centric features into the software. So because everybody is saying that AI, big data, so sometimes they macam put pressure on the developer, kan? Or on the researcher side, maybe. People will keep telling, okay, you use AI, everything is AI. Or the data is big data. As I mentioned earlier, big data tu dia kena ada 5V tu. So does it comply with the 5Vs? Or to really call it as big data? Okay, this is why you see software equipped with AI capabilities. In fact, you might be using some of them in your company. Sometimes kita dah guna pun, but then we not really understand what's AI or what's big data is. So we don't really understand, without even really knowing it. So that's the misconception number 3. And then the last one is not all data is useful. Even though you have a lot of data, but does it really useful? Can you use it to come up with some prediction or some analysis? Sometimes maybe it's just an extra noise to your data. Okay, so that's important. So just collecting data for the sake of will not cut it. Businesses need to understand this and ensure the data they are collecting or using to train AI is of high quality. So a large data is not necessarily high quality data. So they need to have someone or a skilled person to know it or to define it as a high quality data. Okay, so because that's not, as mentioned earlier, not all data is useful. So there is a fine line between having data and having the right data. So when we say that we have data, but there is a very thin line or fine line to define it, whether it is a big data or it is a high quality big data. So we need to be careful to have this different definition in your application or when you try to promote something, how to say. Okay, so that's the misconception. I think I'll conclude on my part. Okay. So evaluating, okay, as mentioned, my part is to tell you more about how to use big data analytics in education, or how important big data analytics in education. So evaluating a student's understanding is one of the most important responsibility of being an educator. So after all, dalam one institution ni, our aim is to cater students, to ensure that students have a pleasant experience throughout their study, or to ensure that we deliver the right content or we have the right program for the student in order for them to compete in the real world life after they finish their study, kan? So it determines the speed at which you cover the topic. Okay, it also the volume of information you can provide and the variety of related concepts that can be delivered within the amount of time you have with them. Maksudnya within kita punya experience with the student, that's the important things lah. Okay, the volume of information we can deliver, is it the related concept to is fully understand or not by the students, and so on. So that's, I would say that's student understanding or education is student oriented lah. The purpose is for the students. Okay, and then now with real-time data and a lot of real-time data, we can speed up the information gathering process, easily adapt our pedagogical approach and respond to the individual needs of our student. So by using data, kita boleh respond orang kata better. If student have the problem, we can know right straight away. Okay, even before the result being out pun dekat e-campus, kita dah tahu the student have some weaknesses, or they excel in this area or they not excel in this area. So we might even predict graduation results to help decide where, when, and to whom we should allocate more time and resources. Okay, this use of large data set to guide university or to help them in deciding what's important for the world of education and its applicability to every industry wanting to take advantage of the technological trends driving economic and social change. So yeah, that's my conclusion for my part. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Izrin. Lastly, now we move to our final panelist, which is Dr. Akmal. But before that, Dr. Akmal, can you make it your summary of this question around 5 minutes, because we are running out of time now. So the question is, AI in education seems to have a big potential impact and can change the education ecosystem. And we know that Malaysia already have this 4IR and AI policy. And we know that education is one of the core sector that can benefit AI. However, what is the current status and maturity of AI when applying in education system, specifically in the teaching and learning in Malaysia context, and how you see after 5 years or in the future, the impact of AI in Malaysia higher education?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Akilah. To address this question, the current status of adoption of AI in teaching and learning specifically, that can be addressed if we look at the framework that I have presented. We have 3 types of AI in education. The first one is learning with AI and learning about AI and preparing for AI. So university connected AI in multiple ways. So for example, now learning with AI, if we want to use AI to increase our ability to learn, for example, in other fields, not only computer science or IT, So maybe we need a lot of infrastructure, the server or the computing resources. If we go to the cloud, as presented by Dr. Adrami, we need funding to utilize the cloud. Okay. The second one is learning about AI. Nowadays, I think government has spent a lot of money to provide training to the student, to upskill the student. For example, in the Penjana program, for example, that funded by government, and at least to give extra knowledge or extra advantage to students, after graduation, to increase their employability. And then the third one is preparing for AI. I think preparing for AI is very challenging. How we can, for example, integrate the AI module in other field, not only computer, not only IT. How we can use AI, either we use in the curriculum development or either sneak some part of AI in their course. That is actually very challenging. What can I say? But above all, in the education, in the teaching and learning, we must think about outcome. That is very important, the student outcome. Every program or every faculty have their specific outcome for student. But the role of AI is not replace that. We just give extra knowledge or to assist student experiencing in teaching and learning. And then I think maybe in the 5 years, I see that AI will continuously increasing, adopted in many sectors. So that's why at least most of students in UMK, inshallah, can be equipped at least some knowledge about AI, data analytics, and many more. And then in the 5 years also, I think the reskilling, or training, or upskilling program about technology for AR will continuously needed. Okay, continuously needed, because we have increased demands of the data analytics, for example, or the jobs demand in the field of AI or data science. And then in education, actually it's very challenging to embed curriculum. I think the program that can be developed by university in the future must have established how we can embed the curriculum from the industry. That's now is a very challenging part. How we can embed the curriculum from industry to be used in our syllabus or our module that can improve the efficiency or can improve the student outcome at the end of their program or their study. But yes, we know that AI can be used as it's very potential to be used in education. But I want to highlight some study that have been done by McKinsey and Company. They study about how AI will impact, or IR4 will impact the education. The result of their study, their hypothesis said that implementing technology in the classroom is very hard actually. Just providing hardware is easy. Yes, we have already hardware, tablet, laptop, handset, but integrating effective software that links to student learning goals within the curriculum, and also to train the teacher to get use of this technology, how to adopt, is very difficult actually. Okay, because this underscore why we believe that technology in the classroom is not going to save much direction of instructional time. So at the end, we want to improve student outcomes. The teacher still need to be in the classroom. The role will be shift from the instructor to facilitator or push or motivator. AI will be used only to assist their learning activity. For example, some teachers are using flipped learning in their classroom instead of teaching a concept in classroom and then having students go home to practice it. They also can assign self-paced videos as homework to give the basic instruction and then have student practice in the classroom. That have been done by PKPA. which introduce substitute blended learning (SBL), so the student can learn by themselves and they practice. After that, after they got the video or they learn, they can practice in front of their lecturers. So lecturers here will provide give the suggestion or help the student. I think the summary is education is education. To grow the student, to grow the people, we need human. Educator, facilitator and motivator will be influenced in this education nowadays. AI will not replace, or AI machine or AI robot will not replace the human intelligence actually in the education. We still need a human. So I think that's conclude my answer to Dr. Akilah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Akmal and all the panelists. It looks like we have covered all of our topics for today. So some soft reminder to our audience. Don't forget to fill up the Google form as placed in the chat room for your attendance record. And all right, ladies and gentlemen, now we are come to the question and answer session, but actually we are running out of time now. Maybe we can accept like 1 or 2 questions from the audience. Feel free to unmute yourself, or you can ask the question to the panel, or you can type your question at the chat room and I will read the question for the panel to answer it.
Akilah?
Yes?
Good evening. I'm Surya. May I pose my question?
Yes, sure problem.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, from GSD, thank you so much for your really very impactful sharing. And I think we must do more. My first take is must do more. Yeah, from all your sessions just now, from either from Dr. Akmal, Dr. Izrin, Hadrami, and also Shazwan. Basically, I found that it's more like very theoretical, but I would like to suggest that maybe sometime it should come into doing case studies. For example, when I listen to one of the speakers saying about on eCampus and everything, so you can have that as our subsample or your subsamples to do data analytics. 1. Number 2, I am very amazed with your sharings and it's actually improved my understanding. But there are a little bit like thin layer between what Dr. Akmal has shared and Dr. Izrin has shared. Like Dr. Akmal has shared about teacher facing, for example, the model, and looking upon the analytics about student performance. And Dr. Izrin also sharing about courses student performance too. How different between big data and analytics? Seems that there are a little bit of redundancy and replication. If maybe I'm wrong, but can both of you explain? Either one of you could explain so that I would understand more. Thank you. Anyway, anyway is awesome. Your sharing is awesome. All right.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Surya. Maybe we can call Dr. Izrin or Dr. Akmal to address this question.
Okay, maybe I would like to give some explanation on my part. When I say big data analytics, in order to conduct a big data analytics, first we have to have the big data, and in order for us to have that big data, we have to have a system. So maybe that is that is what Dr. Akmal mean. From the AI system itself, the big data part or the data collection part will collect the data and do the analytics. So I would say it's not different, but it's not same. It's interdependent. Okay, the big data need AI and AI need big data because AI cannot just stop only AI. They need to proceed by analyze the data. Then it will pass data to the big data analytic part. So that's maybe. Am I answering your question, Prof?
Sort of, yeah. I began to understand. I will come back to you later to understand more. Okay, good.
All right.
It's just a term only. We have 3 terms maybe a little bit confusing
Yeah.
at early ni. We have data analytics, we have big data analytics, and we have AI. So data analytics is especially we want to find a hidden pattern inside the data. So we have already data. So analysis is just first layer. Behind the analysis, we have analytics, which means maybe we cannot see in the direct form and so on. We can see what's behind the meaning of the data. So big data analytics just large scale of data set. If we have 10 rows of Excel file, we can do the analytics, but it's not a big data analytic. A big data analytic is a very broad, very the one term or one technology that have their own discipline. And the AI is AI. AI is the process to get computer to try to do the task same as the human. That's all, Prof.
Okay, thank you. I need to read more. Well done.
Inshallah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Akmal and Dr. Izrin for the answer. Maybe I can accept one more question from the audience, and I will read one question from the chat room. This question is from Siti Fatima Awang. Hi, I have a concern regarding IaaS, PAAS as shared by Dr. Hadrami. May I know which governing standard did you refer to in your research? Is it ISA 99 or other standard? Maybe Dr. Hadrami, could you answer this kind of question?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Akila, for reiterating the question. I've read through the question just now. I think there are two things that I can explain about the question, but generally I'm looking at a broader sense or broader perspective of the word governance. When I use the word governance, I'm not actually referring to any standard like the ISA 99, right? That is mainly for the automation industry and so on. And for our research at the moment, we are not actually referring to that standard. At the moment, we are more on working on the security aspect in terms of detecting the malware attacks for the IaaS networks. Okay, so again, my answer to that is when I use the word governance, actually I'm referring to the broader sense of the meaning of governance. Meaning, if you are one of the person in charge of the cloud computing services, then you have some sense of governance by which you can control the users or the subscribers who are using the cloud services. So you need to be clear of what you're supposed to share with the users and so on. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hadrami. So we are now at the end of our webinar. For those got any question to ask, maybe you can contact us via email, or you can search our department from our website and come to our department to have more discussion if you have any question to ask after this. Okay, so before we end our session, can everyone open up your camera for our photo session? Okay, everyone, can you please open up your camera? All right, so, okay, ready everyone? 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more time. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So finally, we have come to the end part of our webinar today. I would like to say thanks again to PKPA UMK for organizing this event. We have around 100 participants attending this event. It's such a huge number for this webinar. Maybe after this, we can collaborate together with PKPA UMK and all the faculties in the UMK to develop this digital literacy for our education curriculum. Okay, million thanks to our respective panelists for your very informative and interesting talk, and also to our audience for your active participation on this event. Hopefully this webinar will be beneficial for everyone, and thank you again for your attention. See you guys again next time. Assalamualaikum.